Before the great flood swept over the earth, before the judgment of the Most High fell upon the sons of men, there lived a man unlike any other. He walked in righteousness in a world full of corruption. He did not perish with the rest, nor was he taken by death. Instead, God lifted him from the dust of the earth and brought him into realms unseen by human eyes. His name was Enoch. Chosen by the Almighty, Enoch was a man of wisdom, a man of favor, a man whose steps were watched by heaven. While others lived and died unaware of the spiritual realms above, Enoch was called for a divine purpose, to witness what no mortal ever had, and to carry back revelations that would outlive kingdoms and empires. One day, while resting alone in his house, Enoch fell into a deep sleep. But this was no ordinary dream. A strange and overwhelming sorrow filled his heart. He wept in his sleep, disturbed by a heaviness he could not explain. And then they came. Two men, towering beyond any man he had seen on earth, appeared at the head of his bed. Their faces shone like the sun. From their eyes blazed burning light, and fire poured from their mouths. Their garments shimmered in purple brilliance, their wings brighter than gold, their hands whiter than snow. They stood radiant, majestic, and terrifying. They spoke his name. In fear, Enoch awoke, gazing into the blazing forms before him. He was seized by terror. His face changed, his body trembled, yet the beings spoke gently. "Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. The eternal God has sent us to you. Today, you will ascend with us into heaven." They gave him instructions to tell his sons and household all they needed to know in his absence, and to warn them that no one must seek him until the Lord returned him. With haste and trembling, Enoch obeyed. He rose from his bed and went to the door. He summoned his sons, Methuselah, Regem, and Gaidad, and with urgency in his voice, he told them what had happened. He warned them not to turn from God. "Do not follow the vain," he said, "those who made not heaven and earth, for they shall perish, along with those who worship them." And then came the moment no father longs for. He looked at his sons, knowing he would leave them without promise of return. With a final blessing, he told them to be strong in the fear of the Lord, to trust in him, and to hold fast to righteousness. "Let no one search for me," he said, "until the Lord himself restores me to you." As his children watched, the angels opened their wings. They lifted Enoch upon the clouds and carried him upward. Below, the earth faded away. Above, the skies opened like a veil, revealing the first of 10 heavens, a realm vast and bright, awaiting his arrival. What if he had said no? What if he had chosen to remain? Would he have lived through the flood that would soon wipe away mankind? Or would he have perished in silence, unknown to history, forgotten by heaven? But he did not say no. Unlike Noah, who was chosen to survive through the flood, Enoch was chosen to escape it entirely, to rise above it, to see what no prophet had seen, and to return with the very secrets of the divine. And so his feet left the dust of the world. His journey into the heavens had begun. As Enoch passed beyond the clouds, he realized he was no longer bound to the world below. The sky, once familiar, opened into something far more vast and unknowable. The first heaven unfolded before him, not an empty expanse, but a realm structured and full of motion, held together by forces no human had ever imagined. The angels carried him higher and placed him upon the clouds, and from that vantage Enoch looked out and beheld something astonishing. A sea, wider and deeper than any on earth, suspended in the upper realms. Its waters stretched endlessly, glimmering in a light that had no source, no sun, only presence. Above and around it moved the elders and rulers of the stellar orders, beings not bound to the earth but stationed in the heavens. There were 200 angels assigned to the stars, each one bearing wings and purpose. These celestial guardians moved in rhythmic precision, flying in patterns that encircled the stars, attending to their functions and ensuring their paths did not stray. The stars did not drift at random. They were shepherded, directed, and watched. Then Enoch saw something even more mysterious. Beneath the stars and near the edges of that great celestial sea were what the angels called the treasuries, storehouses, mighty and sealed, filled with the elemental forces that shaped the world below. There were treasuries of snow, vast chambers of brilliant white, and angels assigned to keep them shut until the appointed time. From these vaults, the snow would come and return again in obedience to divine rhythm. There were also the treasuries of dew, golden and fragrant like olive oil, shining with the form and fragrance of every flower on the earth. These were not abstract concepts, but real places, guarded and maintained with holy care. Even the simplest phenomena, dewfall, frost, snow, had their origin here, in a realm above all weather, all seasons, all earthly understanding. Enoch realized that nothing in creation was accidental. Every drop, every flake, every breeze had a heavenly pattern, and angels devoted to its order. The first heaven was not merely a stage between worlds. It was an engine of design, a blueprint of precision and beauty. This raises questions that echo into our present time. What if the forces of nature we observe are only shadows of the true mechanisms above? What if the rain and the snow are not random acts of climate, but responses to gates opening in heavenly vaults? A deeper video could explore this, the hidden treasuries of heaven and their implications. In Genesis 1, the firmament divides the waters above from the waters below. Could this first heaven be the very firmament that once covered the primeval earth? Is this the layer where the floodwaters were stored, waiting for judgment? Expanding on this timeline might reveal how this first realm holds more influence over history and prophecy than we realize. Enoch stood in awe. The first heaven had already surpassed the limits of imagination, yet this was only the beginning. The angels lifted him again. Ahead lay darkness, darker than the night, deeper than grief. The next heaven was not built for comfort or light, but for judgment. Not every heaven was filled with light. As Enoch rose into the second realm, the brightness of the first was suddenly swallowed in a darkness so deep it seemed to have weight. The air grew cold, still, and heavy. He saw before him not stars, not clouds, not wonders, but shadows, trembling and bound. This was the prison of the fallen. Suspended in the gloom were countless beings, watching, waiting. Their forms were angelic, yet dimmed, worn and twisted by sorrow. They hung as if time had forgotten them, their eyes hollow with endless weeping. These were not mortal souls, but celestial rebels, those who had once stood in the presence of the Almighty and had chosen instead the path of pride. Now their freedom was gone, and their judgment was sealed. The darkness of this place was thicker than earthly night, a suffocating veil of regret. As Enoch watched, the angels wept. They recognized him, not by name, but by his light. and they pleaded. "Man of God," they cried, "pray for us, intercede for us before the Lord." Their voices were broken, yet desperate. But Enoch stood in stunned silence. He replied, "Who am I, a mortal man, to pray for angels? I do not even know where I go or what will become of me." He did not lift his voice for them. He could not. He was not sent to redeem them, only to witness. The second heaven revealed that not all beings are granted forgiveness. Some fall, and the fall is final. This provokes a difficult question, one worthy of deeper examination. Can angels be forgiven? Theological traditions differ. Some say redemption is for mankind alone, that the heavenly host, created in full knowledge, cannot claim ignorance. Others wonder if even the worst of humans can be restored. Could divine mercy extend to those who once bore light themselves? A full video could explore this, contrasting mercy with justice, purpose with choice. Furthermore, a comparison with the abyss in Revelation adds weight to the question. The abyss is described as a bottomless pit, a place of confinement for evil spirits. Are these the same entities Enoch saw? Or is this realm another layer in a broader cosmic structure? Could the second heaven be an outer chamber of judgment, just one holding cell in a system far more vast? Whatever the case, one truth was clear. These beings were not free, not forgiven, and not forgotten. Enoch watched as the sorrow of heaven's traitors pressed against him like a crushing wind. But then the angels who escorted him moved again. A narrow path of light broke through the darkness, and the gloom gave way. Enoch was taken upward once more, this time into beauty beyond pain, into a paradise set apart for the righteous. After the weight of sorrow and the chill of the second heaven, Enoch was lifted into a place unlike anything he had known. The third heaven opened before him like a song sung in silence, a realm untouched by corruption, where every tree bore fruit in season and not one leaf was withered. The air was fragrant with life. The very ground seemed to hum with holiness. And in the center of it all stood a tree, not just tall, not just ancient, but eternal. Its roots stretched to the ends of the earth, its branches filled the heavens, and its fruits gleamed with light. This was the tree of life. It radiated beauty too sacred for words. Its bark shimmered like gold, its leaves glowed with vermilion and flame, and its scent carried the memory of paradise. The tree stood in the place where the Lord himself rests when he enters paradise, and around it flowed two springs, honey and milk from one, oil and wine from the other. These streams separated into 4 rivers, flowing gently through Eden, nourishing the land between the perishable and the imperishable. In this place, no tree failed to bear fruit, and every corner was blessed beyond comprehension. Enoch beheld angels, 300 in number, bright beyond the sun, singing without ceasing. Their voices filled the garden with melodies of praise, gentle and sweet, yet vast as the sky. He heard their songs and marveled, "How sweet is this place!" And the angels who guided him said, "This place is prepared for the righteous, those who endure offense, turn their eyes from iniquity, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, help the fallen, care for orphans, and walk blamelessly before the face of the Lord. To them this place belongs. It is their eternal inheritance." This raises profound questions. Is this tree of life the same planted in Eden, eastward in Genesis? Or is it a higher form, refined, restored, waiting beyond death for the faithful. A deep dive might explore these parallels: the tree in Eden, the tree in the book of Revelation, and now the tree Enoch saw. Are they one and the same, or echoes across different realms? And who exactly qualifies for such a place? A series exploring the character of the righteous might unfold here, not just saints, but the everyday faithful, the quiet, the unseen, those who served without praise, who loved without asking. Perhaps these are the ones the garden awaits. Enoch stood in awe, his soul drinking in the peace, the music, the fruit-laden air. Yet even as the light filled his spirit, the journey was not over. The angels looked to the north, and what they showed him next was not paradise, but torment. From sweetness, Enoch was about to descend into a place where fire and ice raged together, and mercy had no voice. The fourth heaven awaited. As Enoch was lifted into the fourth heaven, he was no longer gazing at mystery from a distance. He was in its midst. Here, the very light that ruled the day was not abstract, not mechanical, but alive, governed, and sacred. He beheld the passage of the sun and moon, not as lifeless orbs in space, but as radiant beings guided by celestial law. The sun's rays moved like wind, its orbit spinning on wheels of fire with unimaginable speed, and around it moved forces both ancient and ordered. Enoch saw the sun escorted by 4 great stars, each attended by 1,000 lesser stars, 8,000 in all. They moved in harmony, flanking the sun's wheel as it raced across the heavens. Every day, 150,000 angels went with it, and at night 1,000 winged ones would rise and follow its path beneath the earth. 100 angels had the solemn task of kindling the sun, setting it ablaze each morning. It was not fire alone, but command and praise that lit the sky. Then came visions no language could fully bear. He saw creatures called phoenixes and chalkidri, beings with tails and feet like lions, heads like crocodiles, wings like angels, and the radiance of rainbows. They burned with purpose, surrounding the sun, singing as they bore its heat and its dew across the world. The sun, far from being a ball of gas, was a chorus of obedience and brilliance, moving in perfect rhythm through the gates of the year. Enoch was brought to the eastern gates, 6 of them, wide and precise. Each gate measured exactly 61 stadia and a quarter more. Through these gates, the sun emerged, aligned with the cycle of months and seasons. It turned back through them in appointed time, and after completing the passage through all 4 seasons, it exited once more into the west, returning its light to the throne of God. There, in the western gates, mirror to the east, the sun would descend beneath the earth, its radiance carried through night by angelic force, only to rise again in the morning, singing with the birds at the command of the Lord. And what if this were not myth? What if we lived in a world where the sun's every movement was orchestrated by conscious will, by heavenly intention? What if daybreak was not random, but a sacred liturgy played out across the sky? This vision calls for reflection, a contrast between ancient sacred cosmology and modern astrophysics. Science may speak of gravity and fusion, but Enoch speaks of governance, order, voice, and song. A deeper exploration could reveal not just how the sun moves, but why, and what that says about our place under heaven. Such a vision challenges modern assumptions. What would happen if scholars and physicists confronted these texts, not as myth, but as witness testimony? How would their models change if they had to account for 150,000 angels or for phoenixes singing in the light? Whether allegory or literal, Enoch's vision invites awe. It suggests the world is more intentional than we've dared to believe, yet there was no time to ponder. Before Enoch could ask his questions or count the stars, the angels who guided him spread their wings again. The light faded, and from its edge rose a silence, both ancient and foreboding. He was about to enter a realm of giants, beings born not of heaven nor of earth alone, but of rebellion. The fifth heaven awaited. In the fifth heaven, Enoch encountered a silence that chilled the soul, not the peace of paradise, but the silence of judgment. Here stood a vast host of figures, countless and still. They were called the Grigori, watchers, beings who once served before the face of the Almighty, radiant and glorious. But they had fallen. Their bodies, once full of light, were now withered. Their faces bore the weight of ages without service. Their mouths did not sing. They stood in perpetual quiet, marked by grief and distance from their Creator. Enoch looked upon them and asked the angels, "Why are they so still? Why are their faces downcast?" The answer was solemn. These were the ones who had descended from the throne of God to the earth. They had broken their oaths. They saw the daughters of men and took them for wives. They defiled themselves. They fathered giants, beings of vast size and violent nature, the Nephilim of old. They filled the earth with lawlessness, blending the pure with the profane. For this they were bound. For this they would not rise again until the end of heaven and earth. 3 of these watchers had descended first, leading the rest into rebellion. Their prince, Satanael, had defied the light and pulled others with him into ruin. Enoch, though just a man, stood before them. The watchers recognized in him a glimpse of what they had lost. And as he watched them, he wept, not in sympathy, but in warning. "I saw your brothers," he said, "their pain and their torments. I prayed for them, but the Lord has decreed their sentence. They shall not be released. They are held beneath the earth until the last day." Enoch turned to them and rebuked their silence. "Why do you wait in idleness?" he asked. "Why do you not serve before the face of the Lord? Why do you not plead with him yourselves?" His words pierced their despair, and in that moment 4 trumpets sounded from the heights. The Grigori lifted their voices and sang. One unified cry rose up to heaven, a song not of defiance, but of regret, of broken loyalty, of yearning for a light they could no longer reach. Their story demands deeper inquiry. Who are these Grigori? What truly caused their fall? A spin-off series might trace their origin, their mission, and the choices that led them astray. They are not demons in the traditional sense, nor merely sinners. They were once holy. Comparing them to Lucifer raises questions. Who fell first and why? Satanael led the watchers, but Lucifer opposed from the heights. Was their rebellion the same, or were they 2 storms with separate thunder? And can these beings be pitied? Some may argue they were victims of love, of desire, of curiosity. But the Book of Enoch offers no such leniency. They chose, and their choice shattered the balance between heaven and earth. The watchers sang, but their song was not salvation. It was the cry of those who cannot return. Enoch, though moved, could not stay. The angels took him once more, their wings spread wide. As the echo of sorrow faded below, the vision turned upward again. A new heaven awaited, one of wisdom, of order, and of judgment. The sixth heaven was near. The sixth heaven opened like the chamber of a divine council. Here there was no chaos, no rebellion, no sorrow, only harmony and radiant authority. Enoch stood among 7 bands of angels, brighter than fire, more glorious than the sun. Their faces were indistinguishable, not by lack of detail, but by shared brilliance. They moved and stood as one, robed alike, unified in purpose. These were not messengers or guards. They were rulers, regulators, and recorders, the divine administrators of all things, seen and unseen. Enoch watched as they measured the movement of stars and calculated the revolutions of the moon. They directed the path of the sun across the firmament, ensuring its timing never faltered. They charted the changes of seasons, the turning of years, and the alignment of time with eternity. They were not poets of creation, but architects of consistency. Their every act preserved the rhythm of life, but their governance extended beyond the heavens. These angels were appointed over the rivers and seas, determining the tides and currents. They commanded the fruit of the earth and the life of every blade of grass, ensuring that food would spring forth for every living thing. They were stewards of provision, of balance, of quiet miracles that sustained the world daily. And at the heart of their ministry stood another task more solemn still, the writing of souls. Within this heaven, angels recorded every human life, every deed, every word, every thought. Scrolls unrolled before the Lord's face, detailing not just acts of men, but their intentions. These records were not to condemn, but to witness, to preserve the truth of each soul from the beginning to the end. Enoch stood in reverent silence, realizing that even his own footsteps were being traced upon the pages of heaven. In their midst stood 6 phoenixes, 6 cherubim, and 6 winged ones. Their voices rose in one unending chorus, impossible to describe. The air itself resonated with their praise. It was not music, but the foundation of worship, song as structure, vibration as law. The 6th heaven was not only the realm of government, but of glory revealed through order. This vision opens a profound exploration. If these angels truly govern nature, then every element we call natural is actually assigned. A full series could unfold around these functional angels, those over water, over growth, over time, over spirit. And how does this align with the concept of guardian angels in Christian theology? Could the same angels that guard individuals also guard the laws of nature? Does each soul walk with both a witness and a guide? These questions invite more than curiosity. They challenge the assumption that reality is random, that time is blind, that nature is impartial. The 6th heaven declares otherwise. Nothing moves without meaning. Nothing grows without purpose. Nothing lives uncounted. And so, from a realm where every moment is measured and every breath is recorded, Enoch ascended once more. Ahead lay not calculation or command, but light without shadow, and music without word. The seventh heaven was near, and it was unlike all that had come before. As Enoch was lifted into the seventh heaven, the very concept of form began to dissolve. There were no walls, no boundaries, no edges, only presence. Light flowed in waves, not from a source, but from being itself. This was no longer the domain of function or order, but the realm of praise. All things here existed to glorify, and that glory was not expressed in word or ritual, it was sung. The heavens pulsed with music, not composed, but breathed into being, resonating through every atom of divine reality. There, Enoch saw the fiery troops of the Most High, archangels, incorporeal forces, dominions, thrones, and seraphim. Their number was beyond counting. Their stations were like rivers of light arranged in sacred procession. They moved in circles around the throne of the Lord, not with feet or wings, but with intention, bowing, rising, returning, always singing. From this throne, in the 10th heaven beyond, the presence of God illuminated the hierarchy below. Every being stood in its rank, singing with small and tender voices, glorifying the One who sits in boundless light. Cherubim with many eyes and seraphim with 6 wings stood without departing, covering his throne, repeating without end, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord of hosts, heaven and earth are full of your glory." Enoch trembled. He had not yet reached the throne, but its brilliance fell upon him like fire. Still, he was not consumed. The angels who accompanied him told him not to fear. They took him further, to the 8th heaven, known in the holy tongue as Muzaloth. Here he saw the changes of seasons, of drought and rain, and the 12 constellations turning in their sacred circle. Above that, in the 9th heaven, Kushavim, he saw the heavenly homes of the stars, resting in their appointed places, burning with the memory of their creation. Here, no language remained. Sound itself became the medium of revelation. Enoch heard songs that could not be translated, harmonies so layered they overwhelmed the senses. He stood among armed soldiers who served the Lord with instruments unknown on earth, timpani and organs of unearthly design. Their songs astonished the mind and pierced the spirit. There was no need for speech. Here, music was communication, worship, memory, and law. What do the angels sing? A spin-off exploration could unfold this mystery, not as fantasy, but as revelation. Are they singing of creation, of judgment, of the names of God? The Psalms hint at this music. Revelation echoes with voices like thunder and harps. But Enoch gives us a closer glimpse, song as the language of eternity. If heaven is music, then purity may not be what we think. It is not only about moral perfection, but harmony, alignment, resonance with the Creator's will. Only the soul tuned to praise can hear the full melody. And so Enoch was not just hearing, he was being tuned. Every note drew him higher, reshaping his soul. He was now beyond matter, beyond time. Light and song had become one, but the ascent was not finished. The angels turned to him once more, and the brightness around him began to flare beyond endurance. He was approaching the place no created being could enter without trembling. The 10th heaven, where the Lord himself dwells, was near. In the 10th heaven, the veil of all creation was lifted. Enoch was brought to a place no mortal had ever stood, a realm so holy that even the most radiant angels covered their faces. Before him blazed the throne of the Most High, and seated upon it was the Lord, clothed in light so fierce, so terrible in purity, that it scorched the heavens like iron forged in fire. His face was unseeable, yet it filled the sky. His voice did not echo, it penetrated. The moment Enoch arrived, he collapsed. Not in fear alone, but in absolute unworthiness. He was dust before glory, silence before word. The archangel Gabriel came swiftly, lifting him from the floor of flame and thunder. Then came the decree, not from an angel, but from God himself. Let Enoch stand before my face forever. In that moment, heaven shifted. The decree of the Almighty rewrote the limits of what was possible for flesh and blood. The angels brought forth oil and anointed him. His garments were changed. He was given robes of glory, shimmering with the hues of stars, robes not sown, but spoken into being. The transformation was complete. Enoch, once a man of earth, now bore the image of celestial fire. His flesh no longer hung heavy with decay. His body, language, and even his time were rewritten. He was no longer bound by the laws of mortality. Then the Lord placed before him 366 books, each one containing the knowledge of heaven and earth, of times and seasons, of angels and spirits, of things visible and invisible, the mysteries of the watchers, the secrets of the abyss, the appointed ends of kings and empires, the final age of the world. All these were unveiled and placed in his hand. No angel had been entrusted with such vision, yet the Lord chose Enoch, a man, to carry this burden of light. Why? Why would God reveal to Enoch what he kept hidden even from the seraphim? This opens a path for deep theological exploration. Unlike Moses, who saw the Lord's back, Enoch stood before his face. Unlike John, who received his revelation in vision, Enoch was transformed in body and soul. Was it Enoch's righteousness, or was it God's desire to demonstrate that intimacy with the divine is not only for the heavenly, but can be granted to the faithful of earth? And what of the things Enoch saw, but was forbidden to write? The book of Enoch itself hints at visions so sacred they could not be recorded. What do those unwritten pages contain? A lost story series could explore the possible content of those missing revelations, messages reserved for the final generation, perhaps even warnings about the last days, known only to those chosen to endure them. When the transformation was complete, Enoch no longer walked as a man. He stood as witness, as scribe, as living record. He had become the voice of remembrance for all creation. But what does that mean for us, those still in dust and shadow? It means the heavens are not closed. It means that the voice of God still calls men upward. It means that glory awaits not only angels, but those willing to walk in the fear of the Lord and in the wonder of obedience. Enoch saw the end from the beginning. He walked among the heavens, stood in the courts of angels, beheld the face of God, and returned not to the dust, but to glory. His story is not myth, it is not symbol, it is warning, it is invitation. And now it is in your hands. If the heavens are real, and they are, how then will you live? If there are books recording every word, every deed, every silent thought, what will be written beside your name? Enoch's life was not one of perfection, but of communion. He walked with God, steadily, humbly, without applause. And one day, the walk did not stop. It simply kept going upward. The message of Enoch is not merely about the structure of heaven. It's about the posture of a life that listens, a life that yields, a life that shines when the world is dark. Enoch was not taken because he was mighty. He was taken because he was faithful. In a generation corrupt and blind, he lived like he could already see the throne. So what about you? Will you ignore the call? Will you live like the stars are just gas and fire, like the angels are fairy tales, like righteousness is outdated? Or will you rise? Will you turn your face toward the one who calls you upward even now? If you were called before the throne today, would you be ready? This is not ancient poetry. It is prophecy. It is blueprint. It is your map. The call of Enoch is the call of every soul. Walk with God while there is still time. Choose the light. Turn from the shadows. Let your life be a testimony, not a warning. And for those who wonder, could such closeness with God still happen today? Could someone in this broken world be lifted, body and soul, into heaven's glory? The question is not whether God can do it. The question is whether we are willing to live a life that dares to walk with Him that far. So yes, Enoch's journey has ended, but yours is just beginning. Live not as if this world is all there is. Live as if one day you too may be called to the 10th heaven.